friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie, and today we are doing my February reading wrap-up and March TBR. Yes, happy leap day. It is a leap year, and why we have leap days? I don't know. It's very, very odd. Also odd is my bookshelf situation. All of my books are like on the top row, so what's immediately behind me is kind of weird looking. I'm still trying to work through how I want to organize these bookshelves. Obviously, I still have a bunch of space, but it also looks really weird if there's nothing on the top shelf, so I don't know. I'm still working through that. I just wanted to have a different background than in front of my chair. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into my February reading wrap up. To be honest, this is probably going to be a pretty short section because I didn't read a ton in February, and you know what? That's okay. I have been feeling very much in a reading slump lately and just not even very inspired to consume like book related content. Things just are not really grabbing my attention, and I think it is just because I have so much else going on outside. Reading is my hobby. It is my escape from work. And recently my other parts of my life have just been taking a lot of energy, and reading has just been put on the back burner. And you know what? That's okay. I kind of started getting into podcasts in February. Not really, not a ton, but I've kind of found myself more gravitating towards podcasts than audiobooks, which is a recent development. You know, that's pretty unusual for me. But I think it's just okay to just kind of go where my natural interest is going, because I know that my desire to read will always come back, and it's just a matter of, yeah, it's okay. It's okay not to be reading like 20 books a month. Like, it's okay. That being said, I did read 4 books this month, 4 novels, as well as some short stories, as well as some manga, as well as a couple on audiobook that I DNF'd, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Starting off with the first book I read in February, that was Come and Get It by Kylie Reed. I actually had an advanced reader copy of Come and Get It, and then I got this hardback from Aardvark Book Club. So that was really, really nice because I ended up really enjoying this book. I do have an entire review on this book on my channel, so I won't, go too much into it. I'll just say that I enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars, and I really love Kylie Reed. She's just an author that works for me. This is not a plot-heavy book. It takes place at the University of Arkansas in a women's dormitory, primarily in the year 2017, and it talks a lot about wealth, race, kind of the cultural zeitgeist at that time, and it worked for me. I don't think this is going to be a book that works for everybody. It is not very plot-heavy. And I think that at times it's a bit meandering and unclear exactly where it's going, and I feel like some people could be frustrated by that, but I just think that Kylie Reed is such a phenomenal writer, and her observational skills are just so fun to read. So I really enjoyed this. If you really need a lot of things happening, I don't know, you might not enjoy this. And next up, we have the 3 books that I read for my Romance Make It Horror reading vlog. So I have already talked at length about all of these books. And yeah, this makes up the 4 novels that I read this month, so not a ton to say. But very briefly, the first one was Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. And this is a very, very short 200-page horror novel. It's kind of a weird book, to be honest, because it feels like a short story. Like, in its structure, it acts the way that you would expect a short story to act, and I do like that, but then I was just kind of thinking like, this either should have been just a short story, or like we should have done more with our page count. It's kind of ironic that I'm saying like, oh, this is such a short book, and I still didn't feel like it used its page count well. Not to say that it was like boring at any time, but just like, I felt like we could have been doing more with the space that we had. Like, why didn't you just make this a 20-page short story? Like, if you're gonna make it 200 pages, let's develop some things in there a little bit. That being said, it was not a terrible book. I did enjoy my time. It reminded me of the movie Midsummer, not in the plot, but in that it takes place in the summertime, and it has this like cottagecore vibe to it, which I really loved. But I don't know if I really understand what it was trying to say about that. Like with Midsummer, that very much played into the theme. With this, I don't think I completely understand what the point of that was. This is also about a sapphic relationship, and that's also where I kind of, I don't know. I would like to understand how these themes work together a little bit better. I didn't hate it. I did not hate it, but I don't think I would say that I loved it either. I did love the setting, and I did love the concept. I really liked this in concept more than I liked it in execution. So if it sounds interesting to you, give it a try. I know some people like this. I know some people really didn't like it. So I guess just try it for yourself and see where you land. Next up, I read The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and very happy to have read this because it does complete my goal of reading one classic per quarter, or it doesn't complete it, but it checks off quarter one. So very, very happy about that. Less happy about the fact that I did not really love this. I mean, again, I didn't hate it, and I did listen to it on audiobook, so maybe there's something in that I missed, but I wanted the story to be a lot more, I don't know if straightforward is the right word, but I just felt like the romance, I mean, there is a love triangle in this story, and neither of the romance elements, like neither of the options, were really fleshed out all that well. And I get that is just because this is a product of its time, and especially books written in this time period, like if they were romances, the characters are really just one-dimensional, and it doesn't matter. They just say that they love each other, and that's kind of enough, especially for books written in this time. But I was just like, I don't buy into any of the romance elements, and I understand that one of it wasn't supposed to be romance, but like I wasn't buying into either of the options. And then it really goes off the rails. The last third of this book is so insane. It is like completely bizarre to the point that I was just like, what are we even reading right now? So all in all, I didn't really love it, but I'm happy to have read another classic. And the last book that I read for that vlog was A Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a Dracula retelling, sort of. It is written from the perspective of Dracula's wife, Constanta, I think that's how it's pronounced. And it is Constanta telling her story. She is writing letters about her experience from the moment that she met Dracula, became a vampire, and all of their dark afterlife, I guess I should say, that followed that moment. And I know this is really a beloved book by a lot of people, and it's definitely good. It's definitely solid. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, but I think it's just because it ends up being a little bit more, I don't know if basic is the right word to say. It does end up being a little bit more straightforward than I was expecting. The romance is definitely there to a point. And once other characters started to be introduced, it did get more exciting. It did get more complicated, and I did really like that. I liked the writing. I liked the atmosphere. It did feel very atmospheric and dark and very much like vampire heavy. Like all of the tropes that you think of when you think of vampires are in here, and they do all the things that you expect vampires to do. So it's very much exactly what you think of when you think of vampires. And I think that's probably where it's just like, okay, that was just good for me, because I'm like, okay, it did exactly what I expected to do, and really not much more than that. I think that's why I didn't love it as much, because it did like literally exactly what I was expecting and no more. No less either though. Like it did do exactly what it promises to do, and it does it well. It's just like a well executed story. It's just a story that I don't think is all that original or really has a ton more nuanced things to say. So therefore for me, it's just pretty average, and I rated it a 3.5. I did have a couple DNFs this month. A couple of them might even be a little bit surprising. The first one was A History of Fear by, I don't remember his name. His last name is Dumas, Alexander Dumas, or I don't know if that's right. Anyway, A History of Fear. I did have this on audiobook, and to be honest, I was enjoying it. I really was enjoying it. I got about 50% of the way through this audiobook, and I mean, it is not a short audiobook. It's like 16 hours long. So I got halfway through it, made good progress, and then my library hold just expired, and I just was just like, okay, that's fine. I'm not gonna go seek out the ending of the story, even though I was enjoying it enough. Like, I didn't hate it, but I definitely was not like dying to know what happened in the end, which I think is the issue for me, is that I really wanted this to be a little bit more edgy. Like, when you hear the synopsis of this book, which is basically that this man, this student at the University of Edinburgh, murders his roommate, and everybody is trying to figure out if he was actually culpable in the murder or if he was basically possessed by the devil. It's a fictional story, but it's kind of written in the true crime kind of feel, so it's meant to feel like it's something that's really happened. And I'm kind of hit or miss with that style of writing, because I have really loved it before. Like, I loved Penance by Eliza Clark, but I didn't so much like something like even Notes on Execution. And I know that's not exactly written the same, but that is just to say that, like, it doesn't always work for me. And I did enjoy what this book was setting out to do. I just wanted it to be a little bit more edgy. I wanted it to have a little bit more tension. It is such a long, drawn out story. So it was fine, but I wasn't like dying to know how it ended. Maybe I'll Google it one day and just to, satisfy my last bit of curiosity. But overall, it was just okay. The more surprising one, I think, is that I DNF'd Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This was not bad by any means. I think I got about like 20 to 30% of the way through it, and it was completely fine. The writing style was charming and witty, and it is very much told as if it's a fairy tale. People constantly compare it to Princess Bride, but from Buttercup's perspective, and I think that's a completely fair comparison. For me, I think I was just bored with it. I was truly just bored with it. I was like, I don't think this is doing anything really outstanding, and I'm just not super engaged with it. And I don't care about the Cosmere. I've only attempted to read Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and I also DNF'd that one, so maybe Sanderson is just not for me, and that's okay. He's very beloved, and I'm not here to take anything away from that. I think this book was perfectly fine. I was just bored with it, and maybe I don't even like fairy tale-esque things, because I also read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and that's also meant to be like a fairy tale-esque quest story, and I also really didn't care for that one. I was also bored with that one, so maybe this is just a me thing. Like, that's not the kind of story that I typically like, and that's fine. I just moved on. Another book that I technically DNF'd is Out There Screaming, an anthology of new black horror by Jordan Peele. I say I technically DNF'd it because I did not finish it, but it's not in the sense that like I am never going to pick this up. Maybe it's called a soft DNF, but basically I read a handful of the short stories, but this thing is long. It's like really long. Apparently if a book is over 100 pages, I can't get through it. So do I even like reading? I don't know. Right now I'm in a reading slump, and I'm not really enjoying reading. So trying to get through even short stories is kind of difficult. Basically the book is just really long, and I did work my way through a part of it. I think I got like 100. I got to Pressure by Ezra Daniels, and I haven't read past this. So this is at 145 pages. So I tried. So far I'm just having an okay time with these. Like, a couple of the stories I enjoyed, and a couple of them I really did not enjoy so far. And of course, all of these are different authors, so it's kind of hard to tell what I will and won't like. Like, this is not a short story collection by one author, so I'm able to tell if I do or don't like the writing, or I do or don't like their storytelling, because there's so many different authors. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to finish it. It's just I'm not going to read them straight through. I might just like pick up one here and there anytime I'm in the mood for a spooky little story, you know? So that's that. So technically I didn't finish it, but I'm not reading it, I guess is what I'll say. And finally, moving on to the 3 manga that I read this month. So I'll start off with saying that one of the prompts I pulled from my TBR jar, which is right there, the TBR jar prompt that I pulled for February was to read a book with an orange cover. And I said in that video, in my February TBR, that I was going to read The Reformatory by Tiana Reid. And yeah, I just didn't get to it. That book is like 600 pages long and very sad. And I just don't think I had it in me to do it. I just didn't. I don't know when I will. This is the thing that really sucks, because I know that book is really good. And I know that there's a lot of books that are really good out there. They're just sad. And I don't know, you know, you have to be in the right headspace to read that. And I just haven't been in the headspace to read that or much of anything. So that didn't happen. But I did try to make up for it by reading The Promised Neverland Volume 2. This is a continuation of the story of these children who live in, and they've been born and raised in this orphanage, and they discover that the orphanage is actually quite sinister. It is harboring a very dark secret, and they have to come up with a plan to escape with their lives. And yeah, I mean, the first book I had a pretty good time with. I was pretty on board. The second one, I'm still very much enjoying. What I love about this series is that it has these tropes that I really love with the battle of wits. It's always about them trying to like outsmart and outplay each other, which I really, really enjoy. But I will say that there were a couple things that are just like a bit too convenient in my opinion. Kind of similar to Death Note. The characters will say things that you are then just told like, okay, this is really smart, or this is the objective conclusion you can come to from this information. And I don't know if that's always true. And there are definitely moments where I'm like, you got really lucky that a character didn't make this other decision. Like, why they chose to do that, I don't know, but it really helped you out. So it is smart, and I do like how the characters are having this battle of wits, but it's also just like a little bit, I mean, you have to buy into it completely, and yeah, it is what it is. I think it's fun. I think it's definitely thrilling. But yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Another series I'm continuing on with, that is Witch Hat Atelier. This is volume 2. This follows a really sweet story of a girl named Coco as she is on a journey to become a witch. And this series is just really adorable, and the world is so lush, and the magic is so interesting. The magic is all about how well they can like draw these little symbols. So it really is talking about how art is a form of magic, and the art in this manga is like absolutely breathtaking. I don't want to like show spoilers, but the art in this series is so beautiful. It is like more detailed than I would say your like typical manga, or it's just a different style. It's a very like hyper realistic style, and it just adds to the feeling of the world. They're in this cozy little like house learning how to do magic, and it's just really, really cute. I did like the first one more because I did feel like the stakes in this one were particularly high, and Coco had to use her brains to solve a problem. And in this one, it feels a little bit more episodic. It feels kind of like a contained little side quest compared to this one, which really was, of course, with it being the first volume, really pushing the big plot forward. So I get it. I get that this was a little episodic one, but I think that, I don't know, it might have been too early for this kind of story, because I was really interested in the world building that they set up in this one. So I don't know. Regardless, I love the art and I love the storytelling. So I will continue on with this series, and I really enjoyed this. I'm kind of torn as to whether I want to continue on with Promised Neverland, because I'm curious as to what's going to happen, but I don't think that I'm not like itching to pick up the next one. And I also don't really want to buy these like full price. Like I bought this and Witch Hat Atelier, I bought them new, and I'm just like, is this little story like really worth $10? I think I should only buy manga if I know that I really love that series and want to collect them all. Like I should buy them as collectibles, not necessarily as the way that I'm doing them right now, because the stories are so short and I can just probably get them from the library or get them from another source. But anyway, the last manga that I read this month was Haiku, and oh my gosh, I cannot believe I've been putting this off for so long. To be honest, I put this off because, well, I am a volleyball player. It is my like deepest passion in life. Like it's actually above reading as far as my passion for it. It's something I've been doing for a very, very long time, and I love it. I still play to this day, so it is very, very close to my heart. And I was worried that with how much I know about the sport, that would kind of get in the way of my enjoyment of this as like a fictionalized series. But I decided, okay, you know what, I might as well see what all the hype is about, and I have to read this volleyball thing. And I did enjoy it. I was like smiling the whole time. It was so cute, so sweet. I did really, really like it. And then after reading this one, I did decide to pick up the anime, and that's how I've been continuing this story, is through the anime rather than the manga. I'm sure the manga, you know, I'd love to read more of them, but the fact is once again, I'm like, I don't really want to pay to have all of these as in physical copy, like in physical form. Like, I just don't think I really need that, especially when the anime goes faster and it's just easier. Like I can already watch it readily available to me. So I don't think I'm going to continue this via the manga, but I'm very happy to own at least the copy of the first one. Honestly, I'd probably, you know, happily own, you know, I'd like to collect the first like 5 or 10 volumes of it. It's just like, I don't need to be continuing the series in this format for the story. It's really more of just like to have a piece of this story, which is why when it comes to manga, I really like, I don't really like these little individual ones. I would much rather have like the full story in these like big versions, or like the omnibus collections. Like I also have, like I have Holic. This is another manga that I really love. This is the first 3 volumes, and I think there are like 4 of these maybe. So this is just how I much prefer to have my mangas, because I like to have the full series. Like I hate not having the full complete story, but I don't want these little tiny volumes. So I don't know. If they ever come out with a Haiku like complete collection, I might get it that way, but I'm not going to buy these little ones. And speaking of Holic, I really do need to read this version. I've read the first several volumes, but not like in this physical edition. Like I've read them previously, so I need to like finish this one and then move on to the next one. So this will probably be coming sometime in the future. Okay, moving on to my March TBR. Well, I don't know. I don't really have a ton of stuff. I'm not really being drawn to much right now, and I don't want to put pressure on myself by like doing a video idea, because I've had lots of video ideas for winter that I didn't end up getting through. We'll talk about that when I do my spring TBR board. But I did pull some stuff that I'm interested in. The first being a short story collection called Your Utopia by Bora Chung. This is the author of the short story collection Cursed Bunny, which I actually haven't read, but this one seems much more up my alley. This is horror short stories that kind of have, I believe, like a Black Mirror kind of essence to them. I think it is about technology and about the future and stuff like that. And I'm just so interested. This sounds like a collection that would really work for me. And yeah, it's not too long either, so I'm excited about that. I am traveling this weekend, so I'll be bringing this with me, and I hope that I can get through it very quickly. I also have a new release lit fiction. This is The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. This is literary fiction mixed with like, I don't think it's time travel, but I think it's like there's a space-time element in it, And I have seen a couple good reviews of this. This actually just came out on February 27th, and I had hoped to read this book before its publication date, but it's not gonna happen. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get through it. I'm also gonna bring this with me on my travels, so it's, again, not very long. So I hope that I can get through these two right away at the beginning of the month. And then I am bringing back The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. This is once again back on the TBR. In 2023, it was on my TBR like every single month for like 8 months. And then it dropped off at the end because I was like, I'm just gonna be realistic. I haven't picked it up yet. I'm not going to, but it is back. And that is because I do plan to buddy read this with another booktuber, but I'm not gonna say who, just in case that does not end up happening. But just know, I'm trying to get it done. And I do think a buddy read will finally push me to do it. And you know what? This better be 5 stars because I am so like hoping and needing for it to be everything that I want it to be. I think this is part of the reason why I just haven't gotten around to it, because I'm just scared that it's gonna let me down, which is a dumb reason not to read it, but nonetheless, it's also because it's 600 pages long. I think you're sensing a theme here. But anyway, it's back. And it's scheduled for March. Next up, a book that I will 1000% get to in March. That is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Because somehow I have not read her most popular book, and it was just announced today that she is releasing a new book in September of 2024. I'm so excited for this because the last time Sally Rooney wrote a book was in 2021, and that book, Beautiful World, Where Are You? So amazing. I gave it 5 stars and I loved it so much. And that was actually my first Sally Rooney that I read. Since then, I did read Conversations with Friends and I thought it was just okay. And now I'm dying to read Normal People to figure out what the heck I'm going to feel about this because so many people love it. Yeah, I've loved a Sally Rooney before. I thought her next one was just okay, but I'm pretty sure she's gonna knock it out of the park with this one, of course. So I'm reading this so that I can be ready for her new book in September. And finally, a book that has just been kind of staring me in the face on my TBR shelf, and I've just been really interested in it, and I want to get to it pretty soon. I've also heard really good reviews for it. That is Yours for the Taking by Gabriella Korn. This is a literary fiction story. It's also an eco-fiction story about a semi-near future in which the US and other countries have to build these like kind of like dome encased eco protected cities, and it's about class disparity because only the wealthy can afford to live there, and it's also about a sapphic relationship in here. I don't know, it's about a lot of things, but I have read a lot of books that kind of sound similar to this premise, and I won't lie, they have not all been winners. So that does scare me a little bit, but I've also heard good things about this story in particular, and I am just curious. I'm just curious. It sounds like something I would like if it is done right. I'm interested in the concept. We will see about the execution. Okay, those are all the books. I mean, of course, I have other books on the top of my mind, but I'm afraid to say them because I'm afraid I will lie to you. I don't want to lie to you if I can avoid it, but these books right here are also books on my TBR that are somewhat priorities for me. So, you know, you could just zoom in and see if you recognize any of those titles. But I'm not going to say them out loud because I'm not going to commit to anything. But what we will commit to is TBR jar, or more aptly TBR teacup, okay? So I did technically read my February TBR jar, but I cheated. So let's hope that we don't cheat for this one. All right. Oh gosh, it's like overflowing. I can't even, I don't want to get one off the top because that's boring. Okay, I just dumped them all out on the floor and I pulled out this one. The shortest book on your TBR. Oh my gosh. Thank God, because clearly in my reading slump moment right now, I could not handle anything else. That was completely random. The shortest book on your TBR. Okay, let's go to my TBR shelf and see what is the shortest book. Okay, here is my physical TBR shelf. So the shortest book on here, the one that absolutely comes to mind, is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the series. I don't know what it's called. The first one is called A Psalm for the Wild Built. Anything else that could be really short? Coraline is probably really short because it is a children's book. So obviously that would be really short as well. So yeah, I think that is it as far as what we've got here. So I will choose one or maybe even both of these. Okay, yeah, so there we go. I think I'm going to officially call A Prayer for the Crown Shy my book for this prompt, just because, yeah, I've been eager to read this one since I read A Psalm for the Wild Built back in December, January. Very recently I read it, and I want to knock this one off my shelf because it is another book that I bought during my Atlanta Indie Bookshop crawl, so it would be fantastic to check this off my physical TBR. And then Coraline I've also been really interested in reading lately. It's super short with it being a novel for children, but I adore the movie so much. I've never read the book. I just picked this up at a used bookstore very recently, like 2 weeks ago. So it would be great to read this and feel like I didn't make the wrong decision in like kind of sort of breaking my book buy ban for it. So that'd be great. Well, both of those very, very doable, and I am kind of really interested in reading both of these right away. There we go. Those are all of the books on my March TBR. We've got a good mix of stuff here per usual. I'm sure I will find some other books that are completely unrelated to these things, but we will do our best to get through them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, year, and I will see you back here really soon. Thanks so much. Bye.